noticed the more time you spend with someone, the more you get to know them. You get to know their habits, the things that really wind them up, their favourite television programmes, their favourite food, what is really important to them.
Definitely. And I know from working with Mary that she loves her family, that she does a lot of her thinking and planning when she's driving about in the car,
Yeah, I do.
especially going from school to school, and that she absolutely loves going to Criccieth in Wales.
Absolutely. But even when you think you know somebody really well, they can still surprise you and you can learn new things about them. Like this morning with Debs, I never knew she was so competitive. How well do you think you know your friends? Have you ever played the game where you go out of the room and your friend are asked questions about you? So maybe 5 questions like, what is your favourite colour? Do you have a pet? If so, what is it and what's it called? What's your favourite food? Who is your favourite singer or group? And what's your favourite TV programme? Then you come back into the room and you're asked the same questions and you have to see how it matches up. Have you ever played that? Maybe you could ask your teacher to pause the video and choose 2 people in your class who are really good friends and play the game. Why don't you pause the video?
How did they do? How well did your friends actually know each other? This game's really just a bit of fun, and it doesn't really measure true friendship properly. But what would you do if you got to know something about your friend that you didn't actually like or you didn't agree with? Would you be true or would you betray? To be true is to be faithful, to stick with someone and to be faithful even when they do something that you don't agree with or you don't like. To betray is completely the opposite, and I really hope that you never experience what it is to be betrayed. But that's exactly what our assembly is about today. There is someone we're going to hear about who did just that. He betrayed his best friend. Can you believe it?
To betray someone means to expose them, to give information away, to give secrets away that might put them in danger. Now, why on earth would anybody want to do that?
Impossible.
Don't worry. I'm sure it's just your imagination.
I don't suppose saying we're sorry would quite cover it.
No, it wouldn't. For that, mate.
Liar!
You didn't believe her either.
Apologise to Lucy. Say you're sorry!
All right. I'm sorry.
Edmund had lied to his brother Peter and his sister Susan about Narnia not being real. He just wanted to look good in front of them, and he made out that Narnia was all a result of his little sister Lucy's imagination. And now he'd been found out. He had visited Narnia, and Peter was now angry with him, and so was Susan. But things were going to get even worse, because when he had been in Narnia, he had met the White Witch.
What is your name, son of Adam?
Edmund.
And how, Edmund, did you come to enter my dominion?
I'm not sure. I was just following my sister.
Your sister? How many are you?
4. Lucy's the only one that's been here before. She said she met some faun called Tumnus. Peter and Susan didn't believe her. I didn't either.
Edmund, you look so Edmund. I would very much like to meet the rest of your family.
Why? They're nothing special.
Oh, I'm sure they're not nearly as delightful as you are. But you see, Edmund, I have no children of my own. And you are exactly the sort of boy who I could see One day, becoming Prince of Narnia. Maybe even king.
So, because of his greed, his anger at Peter and Susan, and the thought of them being their servants if he was king of Narnia, he decided to do the unthinkable.
Like it?
Yes, Your Majesty.
I thought you might. Tell me, Edmund. Are your sisters deaf?
No.
And your brother? Is he unintelligent?
Well, I think so. But Mum
Then
says...
how dare you come alone?
I tried.
Edmund, I ask so little of you.
They just don't listen to me.
Couldn't even do that.
Oh, I did bring them halfway. They're at the little house at the dam with the beavers.
Edmund betrays them all. He says that he will bring his brother and his sisters to the White Witch.
There was a story in the news just recently about a man called David Smith who worked for the British government in the British Embassy in Berlin in Germany. Now, he was really angry with his government and his bosses because he thought they weren't doing things the way they should. And so he betrayed his government and his colleagues by selling secrets about the UK government to the Russians. He put their lives at risk. Now, like Edmund, he was motivated by anger and a sense that things weren't being done the way they should be done. And that's just like another person called Judas, one of Jesus' special friends. He betrayed Jesus because Jesus was not the man he thought he was. Now, when Judas had first decided to follow Jesus, he thought that Jesus was going to make everything right and he was going to take power. He thought Jesus was going to get rid of the Romans. And he was also in charge of the disciples' money bag. And he had started to become a little bit greedy and a bit sneaky. The last straw was when Jesus allowed a woman who had done lots of wrong things to pour very expensive ointment over his feet. That was her way of saying sorry. But Judas was outraged. He thought it was completely wrong that she'd used this expensive ointment in such a way. That was it. Judas had had enough. Jesus had to go.
Judas Iscariot was chosen by Jesus to be one of his very special friends, one of the 12 disciples. Jesus had also asked Judas to be responsible for the money bag that Jesus used to give coins to the poor and needy. Judas saw many miracles. When Jesus touched them, blind people could see. Lepers were healed, and people who had never walked stood up and jumped for joy. Jesus taught Judas and his friends to love God with all your heart and love others as much as you love yourself. Judas did love Jesus, but he loved money more, and he wanted Jesus to show his power in a different way to make life better for him and his friends. So when the woman poured the expensive perfume on Jesus, and Judas grumbled about the waste of money, and Jesus had simply said, "What she has done will always be remembered," at that moment, Judas had had enough. The temple leaders had had enough of Jesus too and wanted to get rid of him. So Judas decided to help them. He told them that for 30 pieces of silver, he would show them where to find Jesus. Jesus and his friends were celebrating the Passover festival together, and Jesus had arranged for them to have supper. They all arrived at the place and went upstairs. Jesus took the bread and broke it, and then shared it round. Then he took the wine and shared it round, saying, "Whenever you do this, remember me." What the disciples didn't know was that this would be the last time they ate with Jesus. And what Jesus did know was that after the meal, one of his best friends would betray him. After the meal, Jesus went out onto the Mount of Olives, and Judas slipped away, bringing back the temple guards to find Jesus. As soon as he had betrayed his best friend and Jesus was arrested, Judas knew he had done the wrong thing. He tried to give the money back, but the temple leaders wouldn't take it, so he threw it on the temple floor and left, crying bitterly. Judas was so sorry for what he had done that he took his own life. The temple leaders wondered what to do with the 30 pieces of silver, so they used it to buy a field where potters used to dig for the clay to make their pots. There they made a place to bury strangers who died in their city. Not a happy ending for Judas. But what about Edmund?
For Edmund? Well, let's see what happens.
Edmund!
What's done is done. There is no need to speak to Edmund about what is past.
If you want to know what happens next, then you'll just have to watch the film or read the book. Now, the sad thing for Judas is that if he'd only just been like Edmund and said sorry, then he too would have been forgiven by Jesus. Hopefully, we will never experience being betrayed, and I hope we will never betray anyone. Now, if we think differently to someone, or they're doing something that's not right, or we don't agree with it, there's always a way of sorting things out. But betrayal is not the way to do it. One of the most important choices we can make in life is how we treat our friends. Now, we're going to talk to God now, and we're going to ask him to help us to be true friends, and not to betray our friends by giving away their secrets or gossiping about them, especially behind their back. And if you want to make this prayer your own, then listen to the words and say, Amen, I agree. Otherwise, just think about our time today. God, thank you for the gift of friends who care for us. Help us to be true friends to others, even when it's hard. Help us to be ready to say sorry and to forgive when friendships go wrong. And thank you that you are always ready to forgive us. Amen.
Now, my competitive friend, how about another game of Banana Grams?
Definitely.
I want to try and win this time.
I don't think you'll manage it.
Oh,
Put my glasses on, then I can see.
Right, take 21.
Okay, pick them up. There you go. All right, go. $17, $18, $19, $20. Right, go.
Split.